Modern corporate infrastructure is not a vehicle for financial liberation. It is a meticulously engineered, highly classified liquidity trap designed by institutional banks to extract the maximum amount of human energy for the lowest possible mathematical cost. The global economic matrix is currently experiencing a violent contraction, and commercial banks are actively weaponizing silent inflation to permanently bankrupt the high-income middle class. The incredibly narrow window of opportunity to convert a massive corporate salary into actual untouchable sovereign equity is closing permanently this exact year. If you close this video and refuse to take the clinical 60-second wealth test today, you will voluntarily spend the next 40 years operating as a heavily taxed, beautifully dressed biological battery, violently losing millions of dollars of your irreplaceable life energy to a system you do not even understand. Corporate elite desperately hide the mathematical architecture of this exact financial test to ensure you remain a highly profitable, perfectly obedient hostage. But if you stay here, you will uncover the undeniable, brutal mechanism of why your six-figure salary is a synthetic illusion, and you will master the elite exit protocol to build invisible leverage before the system drains your financial future completely. Society has deeply and systematically conditioned the modern workforce to measure financial success by the sheer size of their bi-weekly direct deposit. The average highly educated professional logs into their digital banking application, sees a massive corporate transfer, and instantly feels a biological surge of absolute safety. This is the single most dangerous, devastating psychological hallucination of the modern financial era. Earning a massive active income does absolutely nothing but increase the speed and the violent volume of paper currency flowing briefly through your hands before being permanently absorbed by institutional debt. The ultimate metric of true sovereign wealth is absolutely never measured by how much paper currency you can manually generate through exhausting physical and mental corporate labor. It is strictly, mathematically measured by the 60-second wealth test. The premise of this clinical test is brutally simple, yet it completely destroys the ego of the modern executive. If your massive corporate salary completely stopped arriving tomorrow morning, exactly how many days could your current, highly financed lifestyle mathematically survive without you having to liquidate assets or beg a commercial bank for high-interest credit? For the vast majority of high-income earners who are heavily faking their success, that survival timeline is terrifyingly short. If the answer to the 60-second test is less than a decade of automated survival, you do not possess real wealth. You possess a high-stress, highly taxed dependency. This massive psychological blind spot is compounding aggressively against you every single time your paycheck is deposited. Wall Street actively hides the reality of this test to keep you heavily leveraged. Ignore this next biological reality and become entirely financially obsolete today. How banks weaponize your paycheck. Let us clinically examine the brutal, undeniable reality of the modern corporate liquidity trap. The fatal flaw of the high-income earner is that they mathematically confuse their massive corporate borrowing capacity with their actual, tangible net worth. Because your predictable W-2 salary is so large, commercial banks eagerly grant you massive credit limits, premium metal reward cards, and enormous residential mortgages. When you log into your account and see a $50,000 available credit limit, your fragile ego instantly inflates, genuinely believing that this massive borrowing power is real leverage. This is absolute, undeniable financial insanity. You have voluntarily built a massive, incredibly heavy, sophisticated lifestyle using entirely synthetic leverage. You are operating entirely inside a highly engineered liquidity trap. A liquidity trap occurs when a massive amount of cash flows into your personal economy, but your fixed expenses, high-interest debt obligations, and lifestyle overhead instantly consume every single dollar, leaving absolutely zero liquid capital to deploy into actual, cash-flowing investments. You own absolutely zero real equity. You own zero intellectual property, you hold zero independent business equity, and you have zero automated systems producing undeniable value while you sleep. You are essentially renting a highly sophisticated, incredibly stressful lifestyle from massive global corporations. Think about the extreme fragility of your prestigious existence. If the market aggressively corrects tomorrow morning and your executive role is eliminated by artificial intelligence, your prestigious high credit limit would mean absolutely nothing. The massive fixed debts you accumulated to maintain your synthetic corporate image would instantly crush you and your family. A member of the elite 1% uses true leverage to acquire assets that pay for their lifestyle. You simply use your high salary as a desperate guarantee to the commercial bank so they can heavily finance your vanity. The illusion of corporate leverage. We must ruthlessly expose the deeply toxic, highly unprofitable nature of your active income. You genuinely believe that your massive corporate paycheck is real money. It is not. Your salary is a highly taxable, entirely synthetic illusion. The absolute darkest secret of the modern financial matrix. A heavily guarded reality that corporate executives and politicians will never publicly admit is that the high-income W-2 employee is the single most violently penalized entity in the entire global economy. Truly wealthy elite, the business owners, the institutional investors, and the silent capital allocators operate in a completely different, entirely invisible parallel universe. They earn massive capital, they aggressively spend it on business expansion, infinite legal deductions, and massive tax write-offs, and then they pay a tiny fractional percentage of taxes on whatever small amount is left. Furthermore, they use debt, which is entirely tax-free, to fund their entire existence without ever triggering a taxable event. You, on the other hand, operate directly in the center of the financial slaughterhouse. As a high-income W-2 employee, you generate massive, undeniable value for the corporation. Before your hard-earned money ever touches your personal bank account, the government violently confiscates 30 to 40% of your wealth immediately off the top. You are then forced to survive, pay your massive mortgage, and fund your expensive lifestyle on the heavily taxed remnants. You have absolutely zero tax leverage. You cannot write off your life. The truly terrifying part is that the harder you work, the more aggressively you are penalized. A massive corporate promotion does not bring you closer to true freedom. It simply pushes you into a much higher, more punishing tax bracket where the system extracts an even larger percentage of your unrecoverable, finite life energy. Until you shift your income from active, heavily taxable physical labor into passive, tax-sheltered digital or physical equity. Your massive corporate salary is just a highly efficient, involuntary donation to the state. Pay extreme attention right now. What we are about to expose is the single most devastating, entirely legalized psychological extraction mechanism used against intelligent people. If you do not restructure your neurochemistry immediately after hearing this, you are volunteering for permanent financial slaughter. The hedonic treadmill illusion. Why do highly intelligent, incredibly capable, highly educated professionals willingly participate in this destructive, endless cycle of corporate servitude? We must clinically analyze the biological mechanism that keeps you completely paralyzed. Corporate institutions utilize a brilliant, scientifically perfected psychological concept known as the golden handcuffs. They pay you just enough money to completely numb your original ambitions of freedom, but absolutely not enough money to actually let you escape the matrix. Let us look closely at your brain. Your high-stress executive role constantly, violently drains your finite prefrontal cortex, the logical, calculating, rational center of your brain. By the time Friday evening arrives, you are mentally, biologically, and physically exhausted. To cope with this massive biological stress and prevent a complete psychological breakdown, your primitive amygdala aggressively demands an immediate, massive dopamine release. You order the incredibly expensive premium food delivery, you immediately book the lavish international vacation on a credit card, and you upgrade your designer wardrobe. You mathematically and logically justify this highly toxic financial behavior to yourself by claiming, "I work 80 hours a week. I deal with incredible corporate stress. I genuinely deserve to enjoy my money." You do not realize that your stress-induced spending is a perfectly calculated variable in the system's financial design. This is the hedonic treadmill weaponized directly against your neurochemistry. As your corporate income naturally increases, your biological threshold for comfort rises in exact, immediate parallel. You start viewing premium, expensive luxuries as absolute baseline necessities for your basic survival. The exact moment you receive a massive corporate bonus, it is instantly absorbed by a newly financed luxury vehicle or an unnecessary lifestyle upgrade. The golden handcuffs ensure that you must continue working your exhausting 80-hour weeks just to service the massive, suffocating overhead of your own stress relief. You are running a marathon at an absolute sprint pace on a financial treadmill that you do not even own. Wall Street's favorite hostage. Wall Street marketers and elite corporate behavioral psychologists understand human evolutionary biology significantly better than you understand yourself. In ancient human history, when we lived in small, brutal tribal environments, being perceived as low status or lacking technical value meant you were denied vital resources, rejected by the group, and left to die in the brutal winter. Your modern brain still carries this exact same biological terror of social irrelevance. It is deeply hardwired into your fundamental DNA. You buy massively overpriced designer clothing, you lease premium European vehicles, and you dine at highly exclusive restaurants strictly to validate the years you spent suffering to climb the corporate ladder. You are desperately trying to build a synthetic psychological shield. You are using borrowed institutional money to hide your deep, primal insecurities from your coworkers and neighbors. You desperately want the external corporate world to look at your physical possessions and automatically assume you have absolute, unquestionable authority. True, unshakable authority cannot be purchased at a retail store using a high-interest credit card. The actual financial elite completely reject this pathetic, highly transparent performance. They gladly embrace the temporary discomfort of looking completely average or even entirely uneducated to the untrained public eye. The truly wealthy architects happily drive reliable, older vehicles without an ounce of shame. And they live in highly efficient, modest homes while rapidly acquiring massive, invisible equity in the background. They gladly absorb the brutal, arrogant judgment of broke, heavily indebted corporate climbers because they deeply understand that massive, automated daily cash flow and sovereign ownership of assets are the absolute only metrics that actually matter in the real world. Wall Street actively monetizes your intellectual arrogance. Every single time you finance a lifestyle you cannot afford simply to prove that your job title is prestigious, you pay the commercial banks a massive premium to soothe your fragile ego. You are voluntarily funding their generational empires because you are biologically too weak to separate your self-worth from your professional title. You are their favorite, most profitable hostage. The system is perfectly designed to keep you blind, exhausted, and hopelessly indebted until it is far too late to recover your youth. The final protocol I am about to reveal is the exact architecture the top 1% uses to escape the corporate matrix. Execute this today, or remain a heavily financed biological slave forever. The exit protocol, true leverage. You must aggressively and violently shatter this delusional, heavily financed corporate illusion today. You must embrace the brutal, cold, mathematical reality of your exact financial situation and instantly admit to yourself that despite your impressive academic credentials, despite your prestigious professional title, you completely fail the 60-second wealth test. You are secretly, mathematically broke. Confess your massive, destructive, ego-driven sins to yourself in the mirror right now. The absolute only way to escape the corporate liquidity trap is to completely murder your pathetic need for external intellectual validation. You must aggressively lower your visible social status today to instantly skyrocket your actual invisible wealth tomorrow. Break the suffocating, heavy chains of the hedonic treadmill immediately. Stop increasing your lifestyle and renting expensive status props every single time you receive a corporate promotion or a raise. Force yourself to live exactly like you did when you were making half your current salary, and violently deploy every single saved dollar into cash-flowing digital assets, broad index funds, private business equity, and tax-advantaged commercial real estate. Build a massive, impenetrable fortress of financial friction around your bank account. Stop relying on your highly fragile, completely active synthetic salary and focus entirely on acquiring massive leverage and generational back-end ownership. Become the silent, incredibly ruthless architect of your own reality. Stop trading your irreplaceable hours on Earth for highly taxed paper currency that the commercial banks use to permanently enslave you. The global financial elite actively suppress this exact psychological truth because they desperately need you to remain a highly stressed, perfectly compliant, highly educated employee completely addicted to synthetic status. They need you to stay exactly where you are in the slaughterhouse to generate their corporate profits. Subscribe right now to quickly join the elite sovereign minority and master the 1% money mindset today. Stop blindly playing the rigged corporate game they designed perfectly to extract your energy and your future. Master your mind entirely before the corporate matrix destroys your future. Build your massive fortress of absolute sovereign financial power today. See you in the next elite financial protocol.